Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Ice Age event in which the Arcturion is added to the game. Also, this is basically the 6-year anniversary of the game week, given that we're going to be getting the 6-year anniversary pet for 2020 this Wednesday, so that's right around the corner, and we might be expecting a couple other things to go along with it. We'll just have to wait and see. One thing to mention right off the bat is that somewhat useless mythic that came out last Friday. Do keep in mind that it is still in the Glory Gem Guild VIP chest drop table, even though there's still no timer on this page for whatever reason. It does go all the way until Friday reset, so all the way until the end of Thursday, so you still have several days to have to worry about that. So if you do want to go get it, you still have plenty of time with your keys this week. However, if you want to try rolling your keys for anything within the drop table, make sure to save your keys, because you have to wait until at least Friday until this thing drops out as the exclusive mythic in the Glory Gem Guild and VIP chest drop table. Anyways, let's go over the new troop, and this is actually relevant for once because, gosh, this thing is not useless. Finally, we actually got a glory troop that is somewhat meta. I have a really interesting team to go show with it. I haven't tested too much with it, but I like first impressions with it. It is actually decently strong. But anyways, it comes with green blue. Great time to stock up. It's only 400, so 200 each. Great time to get those arcane trait stones if you need them. As far as a troop, really straightforward but very effective. It's a 12 mana green blue. What it does is it creates 4 brown gems, which doesn't sound like much, but it's boosted by blue allies, and it also gets to freeze a random enemy. So this is pretty potent, given that it can pretty consistently, obviously with a pure blue team, end up creating 16 brown. This will be particularly good for Blue Guild War Day and might even form a new meta for Blue Guild War Day. Not just that, but it has freeze. Freeze, of course, being very potent to make sure that the enemy can't really do anything. One other thing that's pretty noteworthy of this, it's another low rarity troop. Oh, in Epic, that's somewhat low rarity. That has 65% score reduction, which is the third highest score reduction in the game. So that's pretty decent. That's basically a 2/3 reduction onto whatever they're going to be doing with their skull hits. It's also immune to freeze, which is never a bad thing. One other pretty noteworthy thing about it is an elemental, so it can 50% mana start off of Mirage Queen. And guess what? Mirage Queen is a blue troop, so you can use Mirage Queen for the blue boost ratio with this troop. So it should be pretty insane the kind of combos that'll end up forming out of this. Has a lot of potential moving forward. And finally, we got a good glory troop. It has been months upon months. I was talking on the stream last time that the last good glory troop we got this year was probably that one summer troop that converts brown to red because it basically replaced Altapon. This might be the next best since then, so definitely worth checking out as it has a lot of potential going forward. Anyways, next order of business. As far as some of the event stuff, we got 10% to all Zoom and 10% to all Daemon. We also have a 40 souls if you use this thing in PvP and Explore. Wouldn't really advise it, but hey, free souls if you're messing around with the troop, if nothing else. Other than that, as far as the chest drop table, as far as event keys, it is restricted to Zoom, as it is indeed a Zoom event week. As far as the drop table, everything that you see here is the drop table except for 5 things. All of the Alithia troops are not a part of this drop table, as well as the Doom of Stone. All 5 of those are not obtainable. Everything else you see here is obtainable within the event key drop table this week. That includes the 2 mythics. Even though there is currently an exclusive mythic and Glory Gem Guild and VIP key drop table, that does not include event keys. So event keys has Vol and Valdez, which is one of the worst 3 mythics in the game. However, if you want to gamble with it, you have the chance of getting one of the best mythics in the game of Obsidius, used primarily for his 4x stun, but he also has some decent score reduction and a storm for himself. But yeah, really good mythic, though you might get a chance of getting the top 3 worst. So it's a little bit of a gamble there if you want to go for it. But maybe worth considering. There's also King Bloodhammer here. He's not too bad. Also pretty good for the event week this week. There's also Glaceon. However, you can't use that for the event week because it's not a dwarf, but still a decent troop nonetheless. Overall, pretty average drop table. You'd mostly be gambling for Glaceon, Bloodhammer, or the very elusive Obsidius if you're going to bother opening up. If you don't want any of those 3 troops, I would probably, for the most part, skip. This thing could maybe be okay in early game, the Griffin thing, but there's better boost ratios out there. But overall, pretty average drop table with just a few really high rarity things that may be okay if you want to try risking a lot of keys for it, if you've just been trying to get them. Anyways, next order of business, as far as the World Lore event, it's a pretty standard event. You basically just want to take out the highest. As far as the exact point breakdown, the Ice Goblin is worth 1 point. The Bone Binder is worth 2 points. The Arcturion is worth 4 points. The Glaceon is worth 6 points. The Obsidius is worth 8 points, and also worth 8 points is the King Bloodhammer. So basically, you want to prioritize King Bloodhammer and Obsidius, with the next priority being Glaceon, then Arcturion, then Bone Binder, and then you basically want to avoid any Ice Goblin you ever see, as it gives the lowest amount of points. Level does not matter at all, it just matters doing them based on that order. So overall, pretty straightforward. Essentially, just take highest rarity. If you take highest rarity, you'll be perfectly fine. That's all you really need to do. Just be mindful of the lowest rarity one, that the Bone Binder is better than the Ice Goblin. Just remember, don't take Ice Goblin and take highest rarity, and you'll pretty much be good to go for this event. As far as the restriction, it is very restrictive. It is a KZL Drock Zoom with a dwarf typing. However, the team that you could use for this doesn't use any mythics, at least. This is the high rarity one and doesn't use any mythics. It is Mountain Crusher Apothecary, King Bloodhammer with a King Highforge. King Highforge starts all with 50%. Apothecary gives you that brown convert as well as cleanse if you end up needing it. You end up getting Mountain Crusher up, and then you basically carry with King Bloodhammer, given that the token does extra skull damage this week. If we go over to the thing, you can get 160% skull damage for all troops in the current event per medal that you get of that, so that will end up helping out quite a bit. And you basically, ideally, of course, want to skull spam them down and prioritize on using skull spam related troops in order to go and win out the event. And that's basically all you're going to need to do for that. As far as other things that we got going on this week, this Tuesday, we're going to be having the faction event for Fang Moor. This Wednesday, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we are going to be getting the 2020 6-year anniversary pet for Gems of War. It's a little cookie. Obviously, that's a different pet right there, but we will be getting a little cookie. You can probably see it if you don't currently have a pet active. Thursday, we'll be having the Slayer class. Slayer class I actually do use occasionally these days. It's a really high risk, high reward kind of hero class. However, it is used in some skull spam teams, and I specifically use it with some Zugov teams, so it kind of works out. And this Friday, we got ourselves a new faction, so that'll be a lot of fun. Also, it doesn't end there, because this Saturday, we're getting the 2018 4-year anniversary pet for the game, which is basically a cake. So if you didn't end up getting that 2 years back, you'll have access to that this Saturday. So you'll be able to get 2 of those pets this week. One on Wednesday, which is a brand new one, and the other one on Saturday, which might be brand new if you haven't played for 2 years or longer, or if you accidentally missed out on it at the time. Other than that, Soulforge, as far as things that I got going on, there are 2 things that are kind of worth crafting. One that's a legend and one that is a mythic. As far as the legend, Dragon Soul, it's one of the only few legends I would ever say is actually worth crafting. For the most part, you don't really want to waste your resources crafting legends. However, this is a rare exception. One reason for this is the second you get this, even if you're a brand new player, it'll do 20 damage to all enemies if you do it with a pure dragon team. This is obviously going to be very effective relative to what you can hit early on in the game. The other reason is it gets 15 souls every single time it casts. This is a pretty substantial amount of souls for how good his ability already is. It's a great way to passively gain souls as you're progressing throughout the game, as this thing is super, super good in early game, mid game, and even the earlier part of late game. It does fall off way later in the game. However, as you're progressing through the game, it is such a ridiculously good troop for accumulating resources. So definitely worth considering. And getting that as immediately as possible is generally a good idea, and Soulforge is one of the easier ways of doing that. Other than that, Tina 9000 is the best mythic currently available this week, even though it technically doesn't have the highest spell reduction in the game, having a 50%, even though there is a 75% reduction. It is effectively the best spell reduction troop in the game, as long as you're up against a physical damage source. The main reason for this is its ability gains an absurdly high amount of armor, and that combined with a 50% spell reduction makes it ridiculously resistant to physical spell-based damage. It's absolute best tank in the game for stuff like that. Like Yagoi Queen of Tanya team is probably one of the more noteworthy things that it counters. However, it can be used against any high concentration spell damage related team. It also gets to do 50% of its armor as skull damage. With the fact that it gains so much armor, can gain a lot of damage very quickly. However, you generally use it in second slot, not in first. The main reason being that if you take any skull damage, it loses a lot of its value very quick. However, if your first slot dies out and then you have this thing already casting once or twice, you have such a high value on it that you'll basically one-shot every single enemy with your skulls. Its ability also very commonly one-shots because its range hits 3 random enemies. However, those 3 random enemies can re-hit the same enemy. So 2 of those hits could end up hitting the same enemy and end up killing it out. Almost everything in a PvP-like situation will die if it ends up hitting twice onto a enemy. So that will very effectively get a pick-off, while also doing a damage to another unit. And then combined with the fact that its skull damage is also pretty good for pick-offs, ends up making for a pretty good, well-versed troop that kind of does every single role you need. It tanks very well, has a pretty good damage output on its ability, and it can even take skulls, so it has a little bit of everything. The only thing it's really lacking is board control, which is why you don't really see me using it too often. However, it's a great counter to a lot of stuff in the game, and is worth considering, and is the best thing currently craftable this week. as far as mythics are concerned. Anyways, other than that, don't forget to get your Axe of Drak Zoom. Obviously, they've still been adding these pretty much every single week as we've been getting the stuff roll around. That was from a couple patches ago. If you're in end game and just going for full completion, make sure to get that, as is technically a new weapon. Other than that, as far as things to craft, Doomed Blade, one of the 6 best Doom weapons in the game, is available this week, specifically the blue version of it that converts all red to Doom Skulls, hits everything on the enemy team, and the same general stuff that all these good weapons do. Worth considering getting. It is one of the weaker ones of the 6, however, all 6 of them are pretty good, so even if it is slightly weaker, it still has many instances where it's good. One other weapon to kind of consider, though it's being held back a little bit, but Stone Slicer. Stone Slicer is a really interesting one in that it creates purple while also using purple. It's one of the only few of these kind of generic weapons that actually feeds mana back into itself. The main thing holding this weapon back is there is currently no Construct hero class in the game. If a Construct hero class was to ever come into the game any way, shape, or form, this thing's going to be pretty strong. The mech hero class doesn't count because it counts as a mech, not a construct, which are 2 different things. They used to be the same thing, but then they divided it into 2 different things. So unfortunately, this does not have any hero class to coincide with it. But once it does, if it ever does, this thing will be very, very strong. There are a lot of good constructs in the game, as well as all the guardians and stuff like that. And even just with 3 of them, just using it with like double gargoyle ends up going pretty well because the purple feeds back into the weapon and the brown feeds into the gargoyle. I used to run this for the daily or the Tuesday delves, and it's still pretty decent for that, though I don't generally show the team just because it requires this weapon, and a lot of people don't have this weapon. So like Stone Slicer into double gargoyle or even triple gargoyle. Definitely worth considering if you want to have a different option to run for Tuesday events. You could literally get this just for that, and it will probably be worth it. So somewhat worth considering, as it has a lot of potential and already has some applicable uses currently within the game. Other than that, you could probably ignore most of the rest of the stuff that's available this week. It's pretty much just those 2, and if you are going for full completion, don't forget that's the first time this weapon has been available. Anyways, let's get into some teams, one of which I really want to show because it is the new troop. So we'll go over that one last. Well, we'll still show it, but we'll actually go and use it once we get around to it. But anyways, first up, World Skull event. You already saw this earlier with the team I mentioned. Mountain Crusher, Apothecary, King Bloodhammer, King Highforge. Gonna be pretty straightforward. Just kind of get the Bloodhammer up, cast it, win. That's pretty much the premise. He also creates a Doom Skull Storm. Other than that, the cheaper version of this, Mountain Crusher, Dwarven Gate, Slayer Ghost, and Bone Binder. You can also possibly go with double Bone Binder. Basically, you just want to try skull spamming with Bone Binder, who creates some skulls. He also has a resummon if you need. You tank up with your hero. You get a bunch of mana off your hero. You get Barrier off the Dwarven Gate, and that gives it to everyone. You get resummon at first if your hero happens to die, and basically you're just kind of going with a bunch of skull pokes and trying to kill out that way. You do ideally want to try using higher rarity stuff, especially if you can get a Bloodhammer into your team, but this is about the cheapest you can go. Uses all ultra rares and below, so it should be straightforward to end up building. Other than that, the main team I want to go over, and we'll go use as soon as we finish going over the rest of these teams, but gosh, this might actually be meta. We're probably going to run this next Blue Guild War Day. It has potential. Farce Troll, Arcturion, Mistralis, which unfortunately is a mythic, and Mirage Queen with a minus purple into a +2 brown, +1 blue. This is rather interesting. We're going to do a couple battles during this video with this, and it does some interesting things, as you're about to see. It might actually be somewhat meta. Not like the absolute best in the game, but pretty decent as far as like a Blue Guild War Day is concerned. Has a lot of potential. But anyways, we'll keep that for the end. As far as faction, pretty straightforward. We have access to blue. It's a blue-red restriction? Yeah, blue-red. So you can end up going Forest Troll, Double King Gob Truffle into Mirage Queen. Pretty standard team. Works great. No need to change. As far as pure faction, you can run double Chief Dargon. You technically only need 1. However, the reason you run double is so it can tank. You theoretically could go 1 and just try going with a different mana accumulation option, like a double Shaman or something. However, the second Chief is mostly to make sure in case your first Chief dies by some randomness that you still have a frontline tank, because he does have 50% skull reduction on his trait. So that ends up working out pretty effectively. He also gets to inflict bleed, and bleed is very dependent on this team with how you mana accumulate it, as well as how you skull spam. And basically your end goal is to skull spam, kill them out. You could also technically let them bleed out forever, however that will take forever on Explorer 500. On Faction 500. So generally you're just kind of attack buffing like crazy, and then just going to skull it out once you can. with your skull spam option. That's pretty much the whole premise. And finally, the Slayer class. So we got the Slayer class event this Thursday. Easiest way to do this is just Archmagus and the Black Manacle, pretty standard, and then just go like triple of the Gem Hammer. Reason for this is as Empower, so you can get some really hefty pokes in, and it actually one-shot during the earlier battles. I think the first 2 sets, definitely the first set for sure, it would one-shot, so you can kind of just use it as a poke option. It ends up working out for, pretty good for cleanup. Like if there's a area that has a Drake Rider, it'll get 100% summon, so you can just kill it out with that if you don't end up having an alternative stun or something, which if you use an Archmagus you don't have. But anyways, let's go all the way over to here. So this team, it is time. So this is interesting. Let's see if we can get it going immediately. Oh no, we're frozen on blue. No, no. There's one problem with this team. It hates freeze. So what team doesn't hate freeze? I do not have cleanse tokens on. Okay, this could actually be slightly problematic. However, we're not frozen on brown, so you know what? We'll go for that. We're also not frozen on green. Hold up, we might still be able to make this work. So, we're also stunned, which doesn't help. So, this team is very loopy. It's not as loopy as like a truffle or something like that, but it has a surprisingly effective amount of loop. So right here, we don't actually have a good amount of green, which is rather unfortunate. I think I'm just going to pass my turn, actually, let him poke us back, hoping for a little bit of a better board. We did get cleanse there, so that's cool. However, we don't really have a follow-up option right now, so I'm just going to poke him for now, hoping that we can get something. Ideally, we want to regain this thing's mana back. This is a really poor board. I guess I will go for it just because we need to do something. Get a little bit of mana there. We're probably going to have to go and get all of its mana back. I think we could start getting a cycling then from there. So one thing that you can actually end up doing, of course, is in creating browns, we haven't been able to get a good amount yet, but in creating a lot of brown, you can actually end up countering into the green. And when you get the doubling of the green, you can convert them all to Doom Skulls and get some really decent boards off of it. We're having a very slow battle right now, though, but we'll go for a... let's take a brown. Let him poke us. It won't really be too big a deal. So here we can go for Mistralis. We could try getting our alignment. We could try making everything kind of cast when it's more optimal based on where we can actually end up moving it off of Mistralis. Like, for example, right now we can go for a pretty hefty Mirage Queen, or we could end up going for another double over there, which I think I might actually go down the doubling route just so we can get it going a little bit more, because every single time this thing casts, you get a freeze onto the enemy. This is, of course, really good for making sure they can't keep doing their turns. And then if you don't have alignment, you can just recycle the board, or if you do have alignment, you can go for this, go for your poke. Has a lot of options, which is good, of course, for Guild Wars. We can then take a little bit more mana, though since we already have full, we'll just go for the poke, and then we just go for another brown, and then just kill it out with another Mistralis, and we should be good. Could take purple there too. Don't really need it. Also, you would get enchant normally. We were stunned for most of the battle when we weren't really able to use it. But, yeah, look at how smooth that went. Even though, I shouldn't say that. I had a little bit of a hiccup there. But it has potential. It definitely has potential. Compared to some of the glory troops we've been getting lately, this has a lot of potential. Also, can we stop getting freeze? No, he doesn't actually have freeze. Never mind. Hey, we're up against a non-freeze team. What is this? How is this possible? You don't have freeze, right? Yeah, you don't have freeze. Hey, we found a non-freeze team. Okay, let's go fight against this. So let's hopefully get a good start, because this thing can actually win before the enemy even gets a turn if it gets a strong enough start. It looks like we're going to go 2 battles in a row without a strong start, though. Ideally, if nothing else, you at least want a single extra turn, because that ends up getting Mistralis going. So he has yellow to blue. We obviously want to make sure we deny that out as much as we can. He obviously has alignment right over there. Should probably stop that right there. We get a bunch of mana there, and do we have everything to get rolling? So right now we have a pretty poor amount of both of these. I'm actually going to do the green in hopes that it actually populates brown, oddly enough. Seems like a weird thing to do, but it actually is the goal. So right here, he just ended up creating a lot of blue. We'll just have to go and gain our enchant there, take a little bit more mana, and I think we can get things rolling now. We do kind of want to set up the board for the other cast. We don't really have a drop there. Actually, yes, we do. Never mind. We can just take that over, get our extra turn there. And I believe we have everything we need to start rolling. So let's just double check the board, see if we have a Mirage Queen alignment. If we don't, we'll cast this. We can then go and recast this if we want to try to reset the board a little bit, which I think we're going to, just because we do not have a alignment option. I'm actually going to move that just to see if we can regain it. And no, we cannot. So we could go for this. So it seems like this might actually be the safer option at this point, in hopes that we can actually get alignment. And once again, we unfortunately do not. We could just go for it, though. I think it might be a little bit too risky on this board. So we will just go for our brown, which is a pretty consistent way to try to get an extra turn. Even if it's a little bit of brown, it creates so many with 16 that you're normally going to land it. Once again, we just do not seem to be able to get alignment on this. So we're just going to go for a Mistralis then, keep poking it down. You might notice our turns are a little bit slower. However, this is intended obviously for Guild Wars. We are generally taking your time with your battles and not really like rushing through them as quickly as possible. Obviously, as a pure blue team, this is more geared towards that game mode than something that you'd be going super quick on. So we'll go for a nice little poke here, and then we just clean up. And we could also go for a double again or something else, but a single poke will end up killing it out. We even still had our brown spam. I might as well show one more team with it. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. We'll definitely need to mess with more teams into the future, but as far as what I've come up with so far, seems to be working out decently. So let's try Life and Death. The moment of truth. Can it beat Life and Death? That's basically the main way you test any team. Can it beat Life and Death team? If it's fine against Life and Death, it's probably fine against most teams. The Life and Death's not the absolute hardest in the game, but it's definitely one of the most annoying, that's for sure. Okay, so I think we're just going to risk the brown right here. One really nice thing about this is assuming none of your troops have died, you have a pure blue team. If you're using this for Blue Guild War, so you're always going to know you're starting with a blue, you're going to get the full bonus whenever you cast it, which is pretty nice. So I end up taking this. I actually could have taken it for green, probably should have because we would have had full mana. However, I can go for the double, and as long as it doesn't miss, which it doesn't, we are just good to go. We just go cast our mana again. If I'm not mistaken, have we not given him a single turn this time around? I don't think we have. That's ideally what you want to do with this. Maybe we give him one turn, but no, that entangle was from the start. I'm not sure if we gave him a turn. It's like turn 1 or turn 2, somewhere around there. Let's see. Okay, we're probably going to have to double green here, which is perfectly fine. We'll go double our green. Should end up landing with how the board is. We'll then go for a bunch of brown. Should land as well. A little bit sketchier, but it does land. This now gives us Mistralis cast. However, do we want to cast it immediately? I believe the answer is yes. Looks like a fine board to go for. So as you can see, we already killed pretty much every single threat on the opposing team is already neutralized. So that's good. We'll go double our green again and be good to go. We'll land our extra turn. Probably move this out of the way, though we're going to get so much brown as a follow-up that should easily full mana us. That gives us all our mana back again. We go for another Mistralis, and look at that. That should probably be almost a win. Oh, Mirage Queen, where's your full mana? We could have won right now. No! Oh, we're going to have to take another move. Looks like we're a few moves short just because Mirage Queen somehow does not have full mana yet. I guess we just haven't been getting any reds, as that's the main thing that does feed into it when it's blocked like that. Not too big a deal. Of course, Mistralis would only hit one shot. Really? That's actually a little bit problematic because we're about to lose our turn. No! I was hoping we could infinite loop kill it right now. But we didn't have Mirage Queen full mana, so it looks like we have reached the end. Unless we somehow keep getting extra turns. Gosh, how many more extra turns do you want to give us? It's not over yet. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, we're entangled, though. No. Oh, we got to risk this. It's probably not worth it, but we got to try. Oh, hey, we landed it, but we don't have a follow-up mana. No. Oh, we got to give up our turn finally. Oh, he got a poke on us. That's so unfortunate. But then we win with Mistralis. Please hit more than one. Though then again, it's only one shot at that point, so it doesn't even matter if it hit one that time. But there we go. That's the team. It's pretty fun. You don't need Mistralis for. I'll probably be messing with more teams with it tonight, as well as all the chapter stuff. We'll be doing that at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight here on the YouTube channel, as we do every single night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll go over more stuff there. We'll mess with the troop. We'll go over all the Chapter 6 tasks and do all of our normal stuff that we do on a Monday. And hopefully we'll have more codes soon. Still haven't heard back from the developers on that, but hopefully soon, TM. We'll have codes again for our streams. But anyways, guys, I will catch you guys soon. I hope you all have a wonderful week. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And I will catch you all of you guys later. Goodbye, everyone. And thank you so much for watching.